So about to get started. Hey there, moms. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to another episode of Mom 365. I'm your host, Janelle. Mom 365 is where we answer the question, what does motherhood look like for you 365 days a year? I also want to welcome you to the Indulge in Self Lounge. And today I have my lovely co-host and guest, Miss Kasandra. I just want to give her a moment to just introduce herself.
Hey y'all, I'm Cassandra and I am a single mother to a 3-year-old. Her name's Harper. Um, I work as a medical assistant for a cardiologist office and I also help in a bunch of mom groups, and that's how I got connected with Janelle here. Um, and then really just momming it up 365 days a year.
So, Cassandra, I have to tell you, thank you so very much for saying yes and showing up to be here today, right?
Of course.
So like Cassandra said, I in one of the mom groups I'm in, I love being a mom post. I reached out to the coordinator of the group, and that's how I was able to get connected with Cassandra. And I'm so excited for her to be here today because we are going to be touching on a very sensitive topic, but it's a very necessary topic because I know that there are a lot of women out there, especially mothers, that experience this in their relationships. So, as sensitive as it is, I still wanted us to be able to have this conversation. So I'm very grateful that you said yes, because I know it's not an easy conversation to have.
No, and for several it's not, but it's one that I don't care to touch up on, so people definitely are aware of it and can get help.
All right. So as we talk, let me tell you what the topic is. So the topic today is going to be dealing with domestic violence and abuse in a relationship while still being a mother. So before we get started, we like to always start by answering the question, what does motherhood look like for you 365 days a year, Cassandra?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm a single mom, so I have my daughter 24/7. I wake up with her, I go to bed with her, I'm with her through the night, the sick days, the non-sick days, whether she's sick or I'm sick. But for me, it's like I said, 24/7. Her dad's not in the picture. So a lot of the times, especially working full time, I work an hour from home. And
Hmm.
so I'm out of the house about 12 hours of the day. So normally I'll wake up, I'll give her to whoever's staying home with her for the night or the day. And then when I get home, it's kind of like start to go. Like I get home, I say hi to her, do what we need to do so she can get like, no, okay, mommy's home. And then I either start dinner or I start bath, or if somebody else has dinner that night, then I'll clean, make sure my weekend isn't full of cleaning because, even as working, I still try to clean throughout the week. And then we normally go to bed and then we do it all over again in the next day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really it's a constant go go go. I mean, especially when I'm at work, if she's feeling bad or if she's not had a good night, then it's kind of like, okay, wait, I need to check in more. I need to do this or I need to do that.
Yeah. So as everybody else know out there, there's a mom. This motherhood thing don't stop.
No.
365 days a year, 7 days a week, no days off, no matter how you feeling, no matter what it's looking like. It's your life. So it's
Mhm.
like motherhood isn't just, it's not something you do. It's a lifestyle.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I thank you. I thank all my moms out there who are working tirelessly, effortlessly to make sure that our babies are always good.
Yes.
So let's get into this conversation now. So, can you share your experience with addressing domestic abuse and, domestic violence and abuse while being a mother?
Um, well, for me, it was thankfully it never really got physical. There were at times I was afraid it would, but it never reached there. And thankfully, I was able to leave. before Harper really experienced anything herself. She was only about 4 months old, but I was pregnant more through during it than anything. Um, and it's not something that you really see coming.
Yeah.
It's not something that you really think will happen to you until it's right there in front of you. And sometimes, especially with unless it is straight up physical at first, you don't realize it's happening at first, especially if it's emotional or even verbally, because sometimes verbally, like it's not bam in your face. It's kind of just like here, there. It's not a constant. So I didn't really even realize what was happening until like halfway through my pregnancy, and I was like, I kind of felt alone. I think
Right.
that's when it really hit me, was that okay, something's not right here, and I need to think about what's gonna happen for not only my future but now my child's, because I'm pregnant, and this isn't something that I want to go through, or I don't want her to go through.
Right. Well, I have to say that I commend you that you were able to spot the signs early on and you were able to make a decision and stand firm on it. Because, sometimes love can be such a, what's the right word? Such an addicting thing that,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't know when to say no, when to leave, when to say like,
Mm-mm.
I gotta choose me. I gotta choose my babies. I have to, and
Mhm.
it's not putting blame on anyone because we've all been in love, right?
Well,
And
and they say that a trauma bond, which is very true, it connects you in a different way. Like you don't realize it because of what they do and how they do things.
right,
Especially if they start out emotionally and verbally, you don't really see the signs right away because they have like steps. They manipulate you. They're a narcissist. I mean, the true thing when it comes to abusers is that they're narcissists. So they know how to work the system, they know how to work emotions. And that's one thing that is scary, because they know how to change at the drop of a hat about how
mhm,
you're feeling or how to make you feel. And love bombing is like a number one thing for them. So they make you love them even more. And then you don't know how to let go.
right, right. Thank you. So, how did you recognize the signs of abuse, and what prompted you to take steps towards safety for yourself and your children?
Um, for me, like I said, it thankfully it never got physical for me. I mean, there were moments that I thought it was going to, but that was more towards the end when I started to stick up for myself, or like little moments during the process when I would stick up for myself. Um, but I really noticed the signs when I would say that when like I said, when I felt alone, like all I had were a few friends online. I was pregnant during COVID, so a lot of things I was stuck at home. I went to class. I was still going to school during the time, but we only went to class twice a week. So it's not like I saw anybody other times. I didn't go to work. I didn't work. And then once class ended, and I still had like a month left of pregnancy, and then I didn't see anybody afterwards after I had my daughter. So I was very isolated, and I think that was the big sign for me, because like you see these movies, you see people talk, because no one in my life really had ever been abused or talked about abuse, whether it be physical, verbally, or emotionally. Um, but it was the alone. It was isolation for me. Um, I didn't, and even though I had my friends online or through texting, like everything was monitored. Like I
Mm,
was told what to say sometimes. I was told what to do. And even though I lived at home, I was still isolated. Like even though I still lived at home with like we moved in with my parents, it was, oh, you can't go out there right now, or will you go fix the plate and come right back to the room? Like don't do anything outside of the norm or what his norm was.
Okay. So, what resources or support networks did you turn to when dealing with domestic violence as a mom?
Um, so during since it was during COVID, there wasn't like a lot that I felt was available. And it's sad to say, but the system failed me a little bit when I went to go leave. Thankfully, me and Harper were away from the house when I decided to leave, and with the situation, the cops were already at the house. So I took that okay, that jump, that first initial, because of course anyone is scared to leave.
Yeah.
Whether it's never gotten physical, there's always that thought in the back of your mind, this can turn physical. Um, so I took that jump and I was like, okay, the cops were there. So I was like, okay, they're there, they can help right now. And so I took that, and then of course he was still trying to get me to change my mind. That love bombing process, that the manipulation, like he was still trying to change my mind. Um so then I took the steps of trying to get an EPO, or a restraining order. And
Right.
this is where the system failed me, because with it being during COVID, I could not get in front of a judge. Like, I had to go
Mhm.
fill out the paperwork, and because it never did get physical and it was only verbal and mental emotional abuse, they didn't take it as a sincere or a serious threat. So it was denied, sadly.
Mm.
Um, but in that process, I did find a pro bono lawyer, which I do know that for single mothers, that is actually really easy to find. All I did was Google, and I put an application in at a local law firm, and somebody got in contact with me. So that one is actually really easy to find. And the first initial consultation was just over the phone, and we talked, and he told me, he said that technically I even had a case for trying to get the EPO and that I shouldn't have been denied. Um, and then he told me what I should do stepwise to try to get custody or get rights taken and such like that. And he told me what I should do, and I followed his instructions, and I still have his number. And he also told me, he's like, it's easy to get pro bono work done for single mothers. So all you need to really do is just Google. He's like, and put applications in. And that's one thing that I was so glad to hear, because that's something that's scary, especially as a single mother, is
Yeah.
paying lawyer fees.
Yeah, yeah, paying your fees and not really having that protection. And then the
Mhm.
person that is supposed to be protecting you and your child is the person that's hurting you, right?
Yep.
So that
Yes.
makes it even more difficult. And I
Mhm.
think it's something that you said that's very true about the system failing women a lot of times,
Mhm.
when it comes to situations like this, because it's like they don't take it serious enough, they don't act fast enough. And
Yep.
then and the thing about it is, being a woman, we tend to be a lot more vulnerable to these
Mhm.
men because the fact that they're physically stronger and things like that. So it's it's sad to hear that, and I'm sure that there's other women that have experienced that, unfortunately, and have not had good outcomes in the end because of things not being taken seriously or being done in an appropriate manner, because sometimes the court system is just slow, period.
It is, and I've heard it from other people around me, or I've heard of cases where, and it's bad that the system is slow or doesn't take into account of actual threats, because people have asked for a restraining order or an EPO and it not be a serious threat. They're just doing it because they want to, or they
Right,
don't
to be
want
spiteful, right.
accidents. And it's hard, and all I can say is, like, push. Put if you think you are in serious danger, just push.
Yeah.
Push to get it. Like, I had a case, and with his history, I didn't think, okay, I'm probably okay. Like, in the back of my mind, I'm always going to be like a little scared, a little hesitant and stuff. But I was like, okay, with his history, I'm pretty sure I'm okay where I'm located. I know I'm okay, and I've got other resources. I've got my parents, I've got my sister. I'm pretty okay there, and the county is okay where I'm at, where their response time is really good.
Okay.
But in other cases, that's not the situation. So if you
Right.
feel like you are in a serious and you're denied or you're told to come back, like, just push. Like, any
Yeah.
evidence is evidence. Like, nothing is too little.
Yeah. And then another thing too that I will say is you know, being in a relationship, like you said, you never see it coming, you don't expect it, you're not wanting it. But I do feel like preparation is always key to everything. And of course, we don't want to prepare for someone to hurt us. But I guess it's always nice in the back of your mind to know your local shelters, your local places that help women for
Yeah.
domestic abuse and domestic violence. Just in case something were to happen, you know who to reach out to, because everybody doesn't have a network of people that can help them,
Nope.
or
Mhm.
people that they can trust. So being able to know, hey, there's a local shelter down the street and this is what they do. I
Mhm.
know that I'll be safe here. Have a plan, right? Create a
Yes,
plan.
and it's definitely, I do know that one of the groups that I help with is actually abuse and trauma support group.
Mm.
It's within the network, and one thing that we're supposed to do and post weekly is different resources, whether that be domestic abuse phone numbers or shelters or even food pantries, stuff like that. And in any state, there is a domestic abuse shelter in some location. Now, whether it's far or near, that is just something that you'll have to take into account. But there is one in every single state, thankfully.
Okay, perfect. So towards the end of this, I'll let you also share the information about the network. And when we post the video, we'll also drop the connections so
Of
people can
course.
link up with you all. So, how did you prioritize your child's well being during the process of leaving an abusive relationship?
Okay, so like I said, I was thankfully away. I was about 500 miles away from the house whenever this situation had taken full effect. In my mind, I knew like, I had known, okay, I need to leave at some point, but it's like, okay, I need it to be safely. So, not really that I'll be safe, but that my child will be safe, because you never know in those situations, especially when someone turns physical, what can happen. Anything can happen. And I've definitely learned that anything can happen. So thankfully, I was planning it, but I still didn't know like how I was going to do it. I knew that like I needed the cops there. I knew that I needed to like let everybody around me know that okay, I was gonna do this. But I hadn't even started the process of telling like my mom or my dad or my sister, like, I need to leave this situation, but I don't know how to do it safely, because I
Right.
know it's not going to be a safe situation. Like, he's not going to act civil with it. So thankfully I was 500 miles away with my daughter, and the cops had already been called to the house for other reasons, and like everything had kind of just like crumbled, and I was already freaking out because I'm like, it was a hard week anyways. I had just lost a family member,
Oh, no,
but
I'm sorry.
um it was definitely a hard week, and it was like hard on my mom, it was hard on my sister, and then like it was just kind of like the icing on the cake where like he doesn't care what I'm going through right now. Like, he's making this about him. Like, he's freaking out about another situation. He's the one that even called the cops. Like, he called the cops because of the situation going on. And so it's like, okay, the cops are there. They're already in our favor, where because my dad was still at home. So like they're already standing on my dad's side, like, and on our side for this situation. And I was like, you know what? This is it. They're at the house. We're not at the house. Like, the only person that could possibly get hurt in this situation is my dad, but the cops are there. So like I was like, I need to speak with one of them. And so I spoke with one of them on the phone, and I told him like the whole thing. I don't feel safe. I don't feel like my things are safe. Like, at that time I worked at home, so I had all of my home equipment a computer, a laptop, a modem, like all of it. I was like, I need you to tell him to pack his stuff and to leave. But I need you all to be in there because I don't feel like my stuff is safe with him.
Right.
And they did exactly what I asked. They told him, okay, she has requested that you leave the premises and take your stuff and leave. And
Okay.
thankfully, like, he did. And in my mind, and because of the person, and this is what a lot, like, I've seen it a lot where people, like, oh, they don't have anything else, or now they're all alone. Like, that needs to be wiped from the mind, and you need to make sure you're only thinking about yourself. Because I did feel bad because he didn't have anybody else. He had no money to his name. He didn't have a car. He didn't have nothing. But after a couple days of like thinking like, okay, I'm free, like I don't have to worry about checking in or making sure he's happy or walking on eggshells. Like, he put himself in this situation.
Right.
He's the one that made it. He didn't want to work, so he put himself in this situation to have no money.
Right.
He bought a crap car that didn't run, so he put himself in this situation. So it's like, you've got to make sure you have all the resources you need. Don't worry about them.
Right.
Only worry about you and your child, because in the end, that's all you need to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of times too, as women, we have to recognize when a man is not necessarily um they're just not what's the right word I should say, like saying he doesn't want to work, like he's
He's
showing
not
certain signs.
providing.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not
not
providing.
providing. He just
He's not being responsible. He's not being an adult in that
right.
situation. I mean, he's got now technically his second kid, but he didn't provide for the first one either. He kind of upped that and left that situation. But he's not providing. He's not being an adult. He's still acting like a child with a child.
Right. And then just understanding that a lot of times people in those kind of situations, like you said, they're dealing with their own trauma. They have their own self-esteem issues, their own self-worth. And to be able to control someone gives you a sense of power,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
it kind of creates that dynamic in that situation for them, where it's kind of like, I have nothing, but I still have control over you because I'm stronger than you, or
Mhm.
mind control and things like that.
Yep.
So can you offer advice or creating a safety plan for mothers who may be experiencing domestic violence?
Um so for especially mothers, it's not just you that you have to worry about. It's your children or
Mhm.
child. So the main thing that I thought about was, okay, I do already have a place to live. Thankfully I lived with my parents. So I already had that covered. So I know for a lot of people that's not the case. Like, they're not already at their safe place, or they don't have that safe place. So
Right,
I guess would be, okay, what can you do to find a safe place, whether that be secretly lease an apartment and slowly start moving stuff in. And I know that, like, that's not easy for a lot of people. Ask a friend for help. Like, let people know around you what is going on. Like, for me, I nobody knew until I had left. Like, I didn't know. You don't know how to tell people. You don't know how to ask for that help. It's okay to ask for help. Like,
yeah,
I think that's the first thing that you need to do, is that, if you don't have those people because you have been isolated, whether that be family, apologize. Even if you have to apologize for what has happened, you apologize and then let those people back in. Like,
right,
know that they are that you will ask for the help. They should be there, hopefully. Um if you don't have money, because thankfully in my instance I was working. Like, I was the one that had to work because he didn't want to. Slowly try to start saving, or go get assistance. Like, go to domestic abuse shelter and state, like, I need help getting assistance, like for food or for money. There are resources out there that can help with this, whether that be a shelter or some kind of women's shelter where they can bring you to a resource that will help you get the money, because it's tough if you don't have that.
right,
And then when you are going to leave, make sure that you're not alone. Like, don't try to do it, like, unless you know that you can safely get away without them realizing it. Try not to be alone, like, because you never know if it's going to be physical, if it hasn't already gotten physical. And if they think that they're losing control, they will say or do anything to make you stay.
Right. Right. And then it's important too to just be able to know that don't be embarrassed, to tell people your situation, because I think a lot of time it's that embarrassment that keeps people from speaking up, because it's like, damn, I didn't expect this to happen to me, or whatever. So you're embarrassed by the situation. You don't know how to tell people. You feel like you're going to be judged. You feel like it's your fault. But one thing you have to understand is that it's never your fault.
No.
It's nothing that you can do to cause another person to want to harm you in any kind of way. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you're saying out your mouth, regardless of what you're doing, we all should have a level of, self-control. But just know that it's not your fault. That's the most important thing to remember.
It's never your fault.
Yeah. And they might make it feel that way, that it is, but that's just the guilt of it. So how did you navigate conversations with your children? Well, your baby was young, but how do you think moms in this situation can navigate conversations with their children about the situation and the support that you need to seek to help them?
So even though she was only 4 months old whenever I left, I know it's still going to be a topic in the future because her biological dad isn't going to be around. His family is, but he's not around. Like, she's not going to, and so I'm going to still have to navigate that for. And I think when they're younger, they just need to know that he needs help. That it's not safe for them anymore. That they need that person needs help. I think that's the best way to go, because you don't want to sit there and like tell them that they're a bad person.
Of course not.
Especially if you still have to share custody with them, that's when it gets hard because they still have to go back and forth. So as of right now, it's just not safe for them to be together. And when they get older and they can actually understand like the full range, like the full aspect of it, I feel that's when you can go in a little deeper and just say, like, because one thing I've thought about since having my daughter is that I don't want her to go through this. Like, I didn't know the signs. Like, I didn't know that I was being abused, and in my mind, technically I wasn't being, like, it wasn't as bad as physical abuse, but then again, it is. Any abuse is bad. Like, there's no way around it. Like, it's all equal, it's all bad. Like, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, or verbally, like, it's abuse. It's bad. I don't want her to go through it. I want her to know the signs. I want her to be ready. I want her to be able to get away as soon as she sees them. So like once they're old enough to understand that, I feel like that conversation definitely needs to happen.
Yeah, yeah. And then another thing too that will be important is maybe even getting them some counseling, because for a child that's going to be hard for them to process, because it's like ideally in a child's mind they want to be with their mommy and they want to be with their daddy. They can't understand why mommy and daddy are not together. You can explain it in 100,000,000 ways, but children are innocent, right? They see the beauty in everything. So in their mind it's like, well, what did I do bad? They think that it's them. So I think counseling is also important in a situation like that, to be able to help them to get the help that they need. And like you said, it's important to be able to have conversations with your children about, traumatic situations, because it's not necessarily about getting into the details of it, but like you said, making them aware. So if they are in certain situations, they know how to protect themselves, how to prevent it, how to step away from it, because now it's like, oh, well, my mommy exposed me to this, so I already know what this looks like. I'm not going to sit here for that. So you are empowering them, actually. And that's a good thing, and like you said, he's not they're not necessarily bad people. They just had bad situations in their own life, because like we all know, hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
Right. And because they don't want to take the necessary steps to heal themselves, it's up to us to protect our children. Because even another thing too that you can that some moms have to consider is now we have joint custody and my baby got to go over to this man's house. So what if he might, harm the child or take the child, or he might get into a situation one day where he feels like, well, I'm going to retaliate because you left, or things like that. So then you got to prepare your children well for whatever can come, because you just
Yep.
don't know what they're capable of at any time.
Yes.
Yeah. So, can you offer advice on creating a safety plan for mothers who, I think we did that one. I'm sorry.
Yep.
How did you navigate conversations with we did that as well. Where were there specific legal or counseling resources that proved invaluable in your journey away from an abusive relationship?
So thankfully, like I said, I was able to find a pro bono lawyer, or a lawyer that did pro bono work. And a lot of places I've realized do offer this. I just Googled one. Thankfully, I'm from a smaller community, so I did have to go outside of my county. But the lawyers worked with inside of the county, and it was real easy. I just put in an application. Of course, put my number and my name and stuff, and
Right.
then I went from there. And they contacted me. Every different place might be different, so there might be different like ways to go about it. You might be able to do an emergency thing where you walk in and you're like, okay, I need help now, like what can be done.
Right.
It's just something that you have to research, or you have to look for, because it's not going to just jump out. It didn't just jump out. Like, I definitely had to look at several different places before I could find that one place that helped. And of course, if you're doing this and you're still with that person, then it's definitely going to be a little harder, because you got to make sure it's done in ways that they don't see it, they don't read it, because if you all share like a laptop or something. So definitely like being careful in that situation. But it's definitely, because money is always an aspect. Like, if you're leaving, then you definitely don't want to like waste money on a lawyer trying to get away. Always go to a courthouse and try to get an EPO, like get that restraining order, get that emergency protective order. Like, that's one thing that it's hard to get for some instances, like if you don't have that physical proof. But if it is gotten to that point where it's physical, call the cops. They're there to help you. Even if you don't talk on the phone, like just call them and just leave them right there. Like, they're there to help. And
Right.
they definitely need to be called in some situations, because
Yeah.
that's documentation. You call in, that's, even if you hang up, that is documentation that there's something wrong there.
Right. And then another thing too, you can call in private while something is going on, so they can actually hear what's happening if you're not able to really tell them what's going on. So that's always something too. And I'm one of those kind of people who believe in pushing the envelope with things, right? Because if I go in front of a judge and they're not trying to hear me, I'm going to the next courthouse. I'm going to go to another district, because the way I look at it, that might not be my jurisdiction, but I feel like somebody will hear me and point me in the direction of somewhere that I can get the help that I need. So I think, we can't give up too easy either if we're constantly getting denied. Like you said, keep pushing it,
Well,
keep getting in front of
yeah.
other places.
And that's documentation. Like, if you sit there and go from courthouse and they're turning you away, there's documentation that you've been there somewhere, whether you document it or it's documented that you walked into that building, like you were
Right.
there to ask for help. And so then there's okay, she's trying, like something is obviously going on,
Right.
because she's going to so many places. And that, in the end, that sometimes that might be exactly what you need to get the help that you need.
Right. So how do you rebuild your life and that of your children after leaving an abusive relationship?
So my thing, like I said, thankfully my situation was where I'm already at home. Like, but mentally I've had to rethink a lot. Like, like dating is definitely not the same. Like you're a little bit like every little red flag is a giant red flag because I didn't acknowledge those red flags in the beginning. Like I didn't like I kind of pushed, oh, that's not that bad. Like
Right.
it's something, it's explainable. Like there's a reason, there's an excuse. Like, and this is a good excuse. Um I had to rebuild because technically, even though I was working, he was spending all my money. Like it was his money. It wasn't like our money. Like he wanted this. Oh, okay. I better say yes because if not, it's going to be like a fight. It's going to be chaotic. He's going to break something. So it's like you've got to rebuild that money. You've got to rebuild anything that's yours because mentally I wanted everything of his out. I wanted it gone.
Right.
So then it's okay, wait, now I need a new bed. I need to get new TVs. I need to do all this. And for thankfully for Harper, she's so little, so it's just okay, let's just make sure she's happy and she's healthy and then I'll focus on me and then I'll worry about her and then focus on me. For
Right.
older kids, I feel like it would be um just make sure that they're there, that they know that they can talk to you, that they can ask for help, or if they need something that you're there. Like make it known because I feel like in the instance, even for me, like I knew people were there, but I didn't know how to say, okay, wait, even though I'm out of this situation, I'm not out of this situation mentally. Like, so I still need help, or I still need someone that's there, or financially, like I'm still picking myself back up. So I need help or something like that. So that's something that's always hard and it's worrisome to think about when you're leaving, but it's something that it's just part of the process of healing.
Right, right. And then I think for some women too, you have to even take into consideration that you might just have to up and just move to a whole nother state, a whole nother everything. Like you just gotta leave that life behind, even those friends, people that you two were connected to, just to keep you and your children safe so he can never find you or have that access to you. You
Yep.
know, and another thing too that I think we should say too is women can also be abusers, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think it's to the extent of how, well, you know, I can't really say because I don't know if men ever take the children and leave. You know, I don't really know too many instances where that's how it works, you
I mean,
know.
it happens. I mean, obviously, you see anybody can be an abuser. A
Right.
child can be an abuser. A friend, a parent, any kind of significant other can be an abuser, and that's where it's hard because you never know. Like
Right.
you just need to know the signs of it. And I think that for anyone, that's what's best.
Yeah.
And getting help, yes, it might be a little easier for women to get help when it comes to abuse because it is more commonly known for women
Right.
to get abused. But if it's a man, or if you're getting abused by a parent or a friend, there are clinics or people out there that'll help. There are
Right.
definitely, I mean, I'm not one to sit there and throw church in people's faces. There are churches out there though. Whether you go there or not, whether you're one
Right.
that follows or anything, go. They can help.
Yeah.
They will help or do anything you can.
Yeah, they'll create a safe space. And you know, something that you just said too that's also very important is now that you have moved your children away from the situation, now you got to even observe them and watch them to make sure that they don't pick up those traits, right? Because I think sometimes when someone creates chaos or children grow up in chaos, they don't know how to process it to say that this is not normal. You know what I mean? And they might take on those behaviors out of anger or frustration or whatever it might be, you know, because you know, certain things tend to be what's the word, can actually travel in families, right? It can be,
Mhm.
you know, when you have some kind of mental disorders and things like that, they tend to, they can pass on. So you got to be very observant of your children. You got to be able to get them the help that they need to heal from the things that they need to heal from before it becomes bigger issues.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've learned is because obviously like you research it because you're like, well, okay, why did this happen to me? Why was I one of these people that fell for it? Is that you realize that even though it is their fault, like it's not your fault, it is never your fault, it is their
Right.
fault. It's their fault because somewhere whether it be depression or bipolar or
Right.
some kind of other mental illness or mental like it's caught it's in their mind it's okay to do this because that's what they think is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what message would you share with mothers who might be hesitant or afraid to seek help in similar situations?
um Even though it's scary to leave, it's okay to leave.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be hard. It definitely, I mean, I'm 3 years past and I've left, and it's still hard to this day, whether
Mm.
it be because I'm just tired. I mean, I'm a single mother where the father's not in the picture, so it's only me, and it's hard. I mean, I get tired, I get frustrated, I have flashbacks, I have days where all I think about are the what ifs, but it's necessary for you to leave because you never know when the situation is going to be worse in the
Right.
aspect of are your children going to be left without a mother, and that's the scary thought. Like, do
Yeah.
you, or in the situation of are your kids going to get taken, like are they going to be done and tired because you're not doing what they want anymore, or that oh they're just tired of you and they just find a way to manipulate and take your kids from you. Like that's always a scary thought as well because it has happened. Always leave if you can in a safe manner, leave, because that's going to be what is safest for you and your kids.
Right. So, can you offer words of encouragement and empowerment for mothers who are survivors of domestic violence, emphasizing hope and resilience?
um you're not alone. There are definitely resources out there, especially thankfully we have Facebook and we have Instagram and we have TikTok. You search hashtag domestic violence or hashtag abuse on any kind of platform and you're going to find people who relate to you. And for me, that's kind of like what's kind of helped is that I found people that relate to me in an aspect. So if I need to, I can go to them and be like, okay, today's a really hard day. I don't know what I like. I keep thinking about this or I keep thinking about that. And you talk through it. Like, don't hold it in. Don't hold it in. Talk about it because holding it in isn't going to help. Just like they say with anger and with crying, holding it in does no good. Holding
Mm.
it in is only hurting yourself, and at some point it is going to hurt somebody else, whether it be a friend, a family member, or even your child. Let it out and talk about it because that is what's going to help in the end. It might take you years to heal, but if it takes you that, then at least you're healing in some way or form each time you talk about it or you get up in the morning like that. And hard days are going to happen, but as
Right.
long as you get past them, then that's all that matters.
Yes, and this question is just actually one that just came to mind. So for those moms who are actually in the situation where it might be physical abuse, it might be sexual abuse, it might be, but and their children are older and they're not really in a space yet where they can leave, how do you protect your children in that household from that man? How do you go about that in a safe way?
Um, so obviously, since I've not been in it, it's
Right.
hard for me to say. But in my mind, because you never know when you're gonna get in that situation. I mean, it happens more than we know. So there might be days, there might be a time when I possibly, hopefully not get back. But I've thought about it, and it's you be aware of what's going on. It
Right.
might You might not want to in that moment, but do what the person wants. If you have to walk on eggshells, walk on eggshells. Like, doing what they want is honestly the safest because that means they're happy. That means that they're not going to turn or flip that switch. That means your children are happy. That means your children are safe.
Mm.
Um And that means that you are one step closer to leaving because you've made it another day. Like, that's all that matters, is you making it from day to day at that point. Like, you can't just, oh, I'm not going to do this, because you never know what they're going to say or do. So you need, and with that, you never know what your children are going to face, because
Right.
you don't know what in their mind. So I've always learned, and I learned that just do what they want in that moment. It might
Mhm.
hurt, it might sting, and you might be thinking this is just giving in, but in reality you're surviving. You're living day to day.
Yeah, yeah. And I know this has nothing to do with domestic violence, but because I actually grew up in a, very, I guess you'll say, kind of green. So I didn't even know, people were being abused in their homes and things like that, until I want to say, I don't know if I was in middle school when I read it, but I read the book A Child Called It. And I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but when I read that book and I read some of the things, I was just like, oh wow, like people actually live here, like they're living in the world like this. But in the book, it was pretty much the mom that was like actually abusing her child. It was a very interesting book, and it's actually a true story. It's actually a true story. So, you know that we're a spa, and so we always want to know, because as difficult as this topic is, and you went through a very difficult situation, and thank God that you made it out. You saw the signs early and you did what you needed to do. I commend you for it. So now that you are in the process of recovering and finding Cassandra again, what are the things that you do for yourself for self-care to just rest, release your mind, and even sometimes just to take a break from your daughter, because I know you need it.
So definitely after bed, we do a somewhat early bedtime. A lot of times she's in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And when she's asleep, I'm either, okay, if it's been a long day because of work or it's been a long week, I'm going to go ahead and go to bed early. The
Right.
chores can wait. As
Right.
long as you're not like, your house isn't disgusting where there's food sitting out everywhere, chores can wait. And
Right.
that's definitely one thing I've learned, is that the laundry, the toys, it'll all be there tomorrow, and most
Mhm.
likely it's going to happen again in less than a day. So it
Right.
can wait. Like the toys being on the floor, okay, that you can pick them up when the child goes to sleep, but most likely as soon as they wake up in the morning, they're going to be right back on the floor. So I
Right.
mean, those can wait. But to I try to, whether it be buy myself something, like I'm really big into reading,
Nice.
um, or I love blankets. Blankets are a big go-to for me.
Oh, you
Um,
crochet?
no, I don't
Okay.
crochet. I just buy them.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
just buy them.
Okay.
But I maybe buy myself something, like if I'm walking through the store, or if I've seen something, then I'm like, okay, you know what, I've got the extra money, you know what, a little pick me up in buying it, that's perfectly fine. Like, my child is fed, bills are paid, let's go ahead and do it, because in the end it brings something to me just a little bit. But on like Saturday and Sunday, I try to either take a bath, or I try to, like, okay, maybe I am tired, but I need to sit down. I need to watch, excuse me, I need to watch one or two of my shows, like, without an interruption. Like, do something for yourself, even if it's only 30 minutes. That's all it takes. That little refresh to be like, okay, I'm still me. I'm not just a mom. I'm
Right.
not just this person that helps take care of this little gremlin that eats chicken nuggets or macaroni and cheese all day long.
Right.
I'm still a person. Like, I'm still me.
Right. And that's the most important thing. So another question that I do have for you is, so since this experience has happened, have you seeked out some therapy? Have you had some counseling sessions for yourself?
Um, no, and that could be, it's not really, because it is offered around me, and I'm not going to say
Right.
that therapy's never been something that I've thought about, but the
Okay.
time wise, like, it's a little
Right.
harder because I do need to work. I do need to make sure I have that PTO time, that time that I still get
Right.
paid, it needs to be saved because in the back of my mind, and that's one thing that I've learned to come with the situation is that I always worry about the what ifs. Like, okay, what if she's sick and I need to take a couple days off? Like, I can't lose out
Right.
on that money. But I do know that talking with even friends, like that can be therapy in itself because
Mhm.
if as long as you get it out, then that's good. Even journaling. Now I have journaled where I've just wrote down a bunch of things and some of it most of the time doesn't make sense, but I've gotten it out. Like it's okay. It's not stuck in my mind. I'm not sitting there thinking about it 24/7.
Right. Okay. Right. So then, because we did talk about dating a little bit, and and noticing the red flags. So how are you maneuvering that world again? After an experience like that.
Well, it definitely hasn't been easy. Um I mean, I'm going on year 3 and I mean at first I kind of wanted to take back control. Um so I was just like, okay, I'm going to go out on a couple dates. I'm going to see who I want to see. It's going to be just more of a casual thing. It's not going to be something that like I don't want to be tied down because I'm like, okay, I just left this like hard situation.
Right.
And then once I was like, okay, you know what, that's not fun anymore. That's never really been me anyways. Like we're
Right.
gonna try to get something serious. It has been a little harder because in this day and age, one, as a single mom, I don't get out a lot. I don't go to
Right.
bars, I don't go out. Um, it's mainly dating apps. But it's kind of hard because you don't you can't see those red flags really in through texting or through
Right.
so you kind of have to take the red flags of okay, I've not heard from him in like a day. That's kind of a red flag because he doesn't care to talk to me. He doesn't care what I might be going through
Not
or
consistent.
it's
Right.
yeah, like because one thing I learned is that my ex wasn't really he wasn't there for me mentally. Like he didn't care, okay, she's having a hard day, I need to take it a little easy. Like that's something. It was only always about him. So like if I see a red flag of okay, he hasn't asked how I'm doing today or he hasn't taken the signs of oh, I'm barely talking, let's not make it about me, let's see how, that's kind of a red flag. And honestly, I don't want to say it's for all people, but or all guys, if they have a kid and they don't see them a lot, I take that as a red flag because
Right.
that's kind of I with my ex, that's one that I ignored. Like
Right.
he had this other kid that he had no access to. No, yes, he lied to me about it, but then again, he wasn't trying. He
Right.
wasn't he wasn't taking the stand and trying to go to court or do anything. So that's kind of a red flag. Like if you have a kid that you don't really see and there's no real evidence of why, then that's a red flag because you don't want somebody that has this little them running around, this part of them running around that they don't want to see. Like
Right.
that's a red flag too. Um Another one is if they do have kids but they do see them, how do they react to their child's mother?
Mhm.
Because my ex, he bashed her. He said so many things about her. And at first, because I don't know the truth, it's like, okay, that's fine. Like she's just not a good person or this is all
Right.
true. So if you're bashing her right off the bat, like no, that's a red flag because that's your child's mother. No matter what she did or does, you never want to bash them because they are
Right.
taking care of your children. So
Right.
that's kind of a red flag that I look for as well.
Right. Because when you're not showing up, they're consistently there.
Yep.
Right. So for
Mhm.
you to be able to say things it's kind of yeah, strange, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. So as we end, I want to know, are there any encouraging tips, advice, support, suggestion that you would want to give to other moms based on what you have learned from your own motherhood journey experience or what someone else may have said to you or taught you that's helping you through this process?
Um Ask for help, whether it be, oh, I need 30 minutes. I need to take that shower alone. ask for help. Whether they have to come to you or they're in the same house, ask for help. Don't be afraid to take the help. I mean, if someone offers, then take it. I mean, that's something that a lot of people, some people don't have that. So, yes, don't take advantage of it. Don't do it every single time, or don't be asking every single day. I mean, if you need it, then that's fine. Just like be appreciative. Like make sure that that person knows, or that like they know that you're appreciative of it. Um if you are struggling, it's okay. Don't don't be afraid to say that you're struggling. Don't be afraid to admit it. If you're having a hard day, have that hard day. We're human. We're not, I mean, they might say that moms are superheroes because of what we go through, but in reality, we're still human and we still struggle. Take those easy days. If you cannot handle certain things, don't do them. Like if you can only handle so much, then do it. If it's an all day eat whatever you want out of the cabinet day, then do it. Like don't worry about it, because in the end, as long as you are happy and healthy and your child is happy and healthy, then that's what matters, because nothing else really is going to.
Right. Okay. I love it. I love it. So, Cassandra, I just want to say thank you so much. I truly appreciate you for having this conversation with me. I appreciate your honesty, your transparency, and just being brave enough to say, "Hey, look, I've been through this, and I don't want anybody else to go through it. So I'm gonna speak on it." So, thank you so much for showing up.
Of course.
Yeah. So now I want to give you a moment to shine, and let the people know, let the mamas out there know, how can they connect with you? How can they get into some of the mom groups that you moderate, so they can also get access to some of the resources that they might need in
Of
this
course.
struggle?
Of course. So the page that I help, or the network that I help with, is by a friend of mine. Her name's Alicia. The page was known as Misfit Mamas. We've kind of went through a little technical difficulties with the names and stuff. Facebook, likes to do their own thing sometimes. But several of the groups that I admin or moderate for, we have a wide range. We have mom specific ones. We have cleaning specific ones. We have mental health. I think the two biggest ones for me that definitely stick and are close to home is Momspace. It's literally MOMSPACE, and it's mom support group. Anybody and everybody can join. Yes, we don't allow joint accounts. It does have to be a specific mom only Facebook where it's just you on it. Um, and then another one is mental health support for moms, and that is a mom specific group as well. So no joint accounts. It has to be in mom only page.
Right.
That one's big. And then the other one is abuse and trauma support group. Now, this one is a co-ed group, and it used to be geared towards just really domestic violence. But then we talked about it, and we decided to change the name to abuse and trauma support group, because there's all kinds of abuse and trauma that people go through,
Right.
especially of all range, whether it be with your parents, or a friend, or a family member, or a significant other, or a child. Like there's all kinds of that. So that one's a wide range, and there are very heavy topics on that one. That one is a little harder to get into, because it's sad to say that spammers love to take advantage of people that are in that spot, that mentally, physically spot. But that one's really, and it's abuse and trauma support group. And like I said, we have other ones. We have a Making Moms Friend group, where we have a worldwide, and we even have one for each state. And it's literally just making mom friends and then your state name. Like, and or you can just, if
I
you
like
find
that.
and if you find one of the other groups, we have cleaning and organization, we have naturalists, we have a breastfeeding group, and we have a pregnancy support group. Like the network is huge. And one thing I can say is that the support that I've gotten from it has been the best. Like I have found several women in that group that I can have connected with, and it's been amazing. They've helped me. I'm not too active on my own page because that's just something I've really been into. Like I do have Instagram and I do have TikTok, but it's kind of just for like scrolling myself. But within these groups, I love posting, I love helping, I love being able to be there for other people because in some aspect I let that support system go when I was being abused myself. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to let other people, like if I think that they're going down a rabbit hole, I want to be there for them. Or if they actually reach out for help, I want to be there for them. And I think that can be through any kind of group that we have. You can normally get led in the right direction in the right group.
All right. Okay, I like that. I like that. So I'm gonna get all this information from you, and I'm gonna make sure I link it to the video so the moms can have access to whatever it is that they need to get to the places that they need to get to. So I appreciate you. I appreciate Alicia allowing me to steal you, allowing us to connect. I truly appreciate that. And I always like to end with quotes. So I'm going to hit you all with a few, and it has to do, of course, with domestic violence because that's our topic today. At any given moment, you have the power to say that this is not how the story is going to end. Trauma may happen to you, but it can never define you. Don't judge yourself by what others did to you. Our wounds are our sources of growth. You suffered abuse, you're going to survive the recovery. Violence is a dark contrast to what so many of us still believe in, love. You are not the darkness you endured. You are the light that refused to surrender. So with that being said, Kasandra, I thank you. Thank you so much. I always like to tell my moms, so specifically with this topic, what I like to say is very important for us to get into that space of self-love, to get into that space of building up our self-esteem, of building up our confidence, of realizing that we are enough alone. And I think when we can start to develop those things, even before getting into relationships, then it's a lot of things that we can avoid down the road, right? So because I feel like a lot of times men in these kind of situations, they tend to pick their victims or whatever it is. They tend to figure out, oh, there's something that she's lacking in this area, and I can be all of that for her or whatever. So I want us to get into a space of self-love. Keep pouring into yourself. Keep giving yourself the things that you need. Strengthen the areas that you need to strengthen so that you can be confident in everything, right? Nobody can get over on you. Nobody can take advantage of you. And you know when, hey, look, I need to say no to this situation. So like I always say, stop pouring from an empty cup. You got to pour back into yourself. You can't love anybody if you can't love you first.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So when you're pouring from an empty cup, nobody benefits. You might think you're loving and you're spreading all this goodness. No, you're not. You're empty and it's draining you. It's making you even more frustrated, even more angry, even more irritable. So take time to love on yourself each and every single day. So I just want to say thank you, and continue to like, continue to subscribe, continue to share, and stay connected with us. And you know what we believe here at Self-Indulgent? Put yourself first and self-indulge. It's very important. It's not selfish. It's preservation. So thank you so very much, Kasandra. Thank you to all the moms. Tune in. Thursday, we're going to drop our tips. And we'll see you on another episode of Mom 365, where we answer the question, what does motherhood look like for you 365 days a year? Thank you all.
Thank you.